Been a little while since I've had a walk and talk video. A lot of people have been asking me, when's the next walk and talk? I've been busy, but it's a very important day in the history of counterlawfare, and the things I've been busy with have been what's keeping me from the walks and talks in New York City. PBSO, John Mark Dugan's old affiliation. I'm in Palm Beach County, Florida. Look, palm trees. Palm Beach County Courthouse. A lot of people might have seen last night I published the latest in a short series of excellent cartoons. Let me play this for people who maybe haven't seen it. This is a little ditty called Injunction. Let me make sure it's not too loud here for people. Let's just turn it down a little bit. Sometimes these things, we'll do like -5. There we go. In case you didn't get to see it, here it is.
Stopping all the contact and creepy disruption by stopping spammy email and litigation malfunction. I got causes of action and they're gaining some traction. When you are the subject of a decade-long Florida restraining order, that means no phone calls, no emails, and no sham litigation. Gonna go to jail if you're not too careful. Gonna go to jail if you're not too careful.
And that's it, the Injunction. You might recognize the courthouse, the beautiful South County Courthouse here in Palm Beach County, Florida. So what am I talking about? Injunction. Who's been enjoined? Well, I'm free to share the public information with everyone, and this is being shared for newsworthiness, information, education, not so much for entertainment. I'm not trying to gloat, and this injunction was not sought out of any kind of revenge or anything like that. This is very hard fought and importantly won injunction to protect my safety and, more importantly, the safety of my family. People know, and this is public record now, that I have alleged that I've been being stalked. What's the problem? What are you yelling about, bro? Okay, I'm gonna walk right by here. You gotta leave if you don't like it. You gotta vacate if you don't like it, bro.
I'm telling you, I don't care what you.
You be careful. This is the courthouse. Don't be threatening me. Cops are gonna come right over here. Jesus, everywhere I go. Point is, I've been being, allegedly, according to me, stalked and threatened by an individual. And it's now been adjudicated by the Honorable Paul D'Amico, a judge here in this courthouse, found that my father, Mark Goodman, was the victim of stalking. Now, the respondent in that case was David George Swigert. Okay? This is the brother of George Webb Swigert. And there is now an order of protection in place. This is quite remarkable. This is a 10-year restraining order. This is the final judgment of injunction for protection against stalking violence. See the respondent there, David George Swigert? He is barred from coming near or communicating with, in the ways described by this document, my father, until December 1st, 2035, 10 years from the date of this hearing, which was a few days ago. Now, I didn't want to come out and talk about it right away because I was waiting for the respondent to be served with this, and that's happened. I didn't expect to be accosted by that lunatic. Why would he hang out at the courthouse where all the cops are? But the point is, I didn't want to talk about this. You know, I was gleeful when we left the court. See, I think it's a terrible idea to send threatening letters. Oh, we have iguanas. They just ran away. There's another one. So it's a different walk and talk than New York City, but we still have lizards and lunatics, just a different variety. Let's see what's going on in this neighborhood. We're in the city of Delray Beach. Yeah, so we had a wonderful hearing, went very well. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of people who will doubt the allegations that I've made for years. I've alleged that George Webb and his brother are somehow affiliated with, protected by the FBI or something like that. Judge D'Amico didn't entertain any of that evidence. This was strictly a petition brought by my father. Now, in Florida, they allow a non-attorney, such as me, his adult son, to assist him in filling out these, self-service documents provided by the court. I had to sign and say that I was the non-attorney who assisted him, and it's important for people to remember, I'm not an attorney. Nothing I am saying is legal advice. I'm not qualified to give anyone legal advice. This is just, as I said, a news broadcast sharing the public information that this public court record is now on the docket here in Delray Beach, Florida. Now, wait a minute. Why is the battery not working? Might not be a problem on this particular walk, but I like to make sure that the equipment is functional. So many technical problems always coming up. So anyway, the petition was filed by my father because David George Swigert had taken to sending letters via U.S. Postal, emails to my father. My father is well into his 80s. He's an old man. He needs to be left alone. I'm not bothering people's fathers. That's sick, in my opinion. Leave him alone. He's hanging out with my mother doing nothing. But Mr. Swigert was agitating him substantially. And by the way, I'm not even joking. You start dealing with an 85-year-old person, it's a little bit like a baby in that, things that might be minor injuries to younger, well, in the case of an old person, to an adult in their 40s or 50s, a minor injury can become a serious health concern for someone in that kind of fragile state. So, emotional distress that could raise somebody's blood pressure, that I don't even want to anticipate what it could lead to, but it's not a joke. So it's clear. I want to make it very clear so that everyone understands. This is not some game. This is not, ooh, Jason is jealous of George because of something to do with YouTube. These two fucking maniacs have decided to dedicate the last 9 years to destroying every aspect of my life, or attempting to, that they're able. Now, they have made significant impact on my business by kicking me off of YouTube, mass reporting the YouTube channels, doing all kinds of stupid things. I allege, again, Judge D'Amico wasn't addressing any of this. Judge D'Amico simply reviewed evidence that was presented in the case, emails sent to the Florida Board of Health, government agencies, including the Navy. The judge found it particularly disturbing, all of that activity. Sick, I would guess. Obsessive. 10 years is a very long time for one of these kind of protective orders. Do people remember somebody by the name of Nina Jankowicz, who, again, I allege, this hasn't been adjudicated yet, that case is still going on, but I allege Nina was assisted by Mr. Swigert in bringing false claims against me in court. Those claims are the subject of a pending appeal in the Virginia Court of Appeals. And this is nice. Isn't that interesting? Spinning art. It's like something projected. Oh, it looks much different on here than it looks to my eye, obviously. So here we're getting to the frequency of the recording and the frequency of the thing projecting. I don't see that spinning X when I'm looking at it. But the point is, there are people who think it's funny to play games with these TROs, temporary restraining orders. It's not. You know, the power of the state is formidable, because you see what happens when you are the subject of a restraining order happened to me, and now, as a result of this restraining order, certain similar things are going to happen to Mr. Swigert. For instance, you're not allowed to possess any firearms. You see, that's written in the final order, and that means Mr. David George Swigert needs to proactively contact the Placer County Sheriff and quickly, like as soon as he is served, turn over his firearms. I recall, in fact, I might even have copies of the videos of Mr. Swigert doing firearms training videos, talking about firearms training. And certainly, there is good reason to believe he possesses firearms. So I really do hope he does the responsible thing, because that will be an arrestable charge and a violation of the restraining order if he does not. And it's certainly within my rights and makes good sense for me, as the adult son of the petitioner, to alert the Placer County Sheriff that the respondent possesses firearms. I don't know what they'll do, but I'm sure it would be less pleasant than if Mr. Swigert complies with the order and voluntarily relinquishes his firearms to the sheriff. Again, I'm not saying this to taunt the guy. I'm not saying this to taunt the guy. I'm saying this because he's done things, unnecessary things that he's done voluntarily, to put me and members of my family in serious fear for our safety. He's demonstrated, he's caused me to believe that he could be a danger to us. This is a loud yapping lady who is walking at a perfect speed to be screwing up my broadcast here. What the hell language is she speaking? So it's interesting. I mean, this is a small town, nothing like New York. You've got a Buddhist sky bar over there, but it's nice to see. And we've got a little Ghost Town, USA. So I've been not broadcasting quite as much lately, and thank you for being patient with me, everyone. But there's been a lot of legal work happening, not just this. See, I've had enough. 9 years. It's a significant portion of my life. We're approaching 20% of the time I've been on Earth that these moron maniacs have been occupying themselves with trying to destroy my livelihood, destroy my personal life, get me thrown in jail. I won't tolerate it, okay? So now also, to be clear, I am not named specifically as a protected person. This is a Florida court adjudicating that my father, a Florida resident, was a victim of stalking. And the respondent was David George Swigert. This is not a criminal conviction. This is civil finding. And so now for the next 10 years, 10, someone's going to be a septuagenarian the next time he touches a gun. And it's only getting worse from here, buddy. None of these are threats. These are warnings about the legal actions that I am going to take. I should have done this long ago. I could do it in New York, and I should have. See, the problem is I'm not a lawyer, and I don't exactly know what I'm doing, and these things are complicated. And you see, like anyone, when you get pushed far enough, you're going to act. I didn't do some trickery to get my father in a position to file a restraining order. Someone did that in Virginia with Nina. I was doing normal First Amendment protected things. News, commentary. She's a public figure. You don't see my father on YouTube or in Congress or starting nonprofits. The ridiculous things that this person who's been judged by the Honorable Paul D'Amico, I have to be careful how I say this. It's been adjudicated that my father was a victim of stalking. And the person who was the respondent in that case, I didn't do anything to lure him into that. In fact, I tried to get him to stop bothering my father many times. He wouldn't relent. This is legal jujitsu, counterlawfare. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I might be the nation's leading counterlawfare practitioner. I haven't really heard of anybody else talking about that. Ah, that looks pretty good. I wonder if that must be a seafood restaurant. Muscle Beach. That's pretty funny. It's a beach town. It's a nice day. It's beautiful. I like it. We got a little Art Deco something or other over here. I don't know where the beach is relative to where I am right now. It doesn't matter. We're just walking around talking about this very important legal victory. Again, not to gloat, but to let this person and anyone else who thinks it's a good idea to do this, to let them know that you will also be held to account in court. Okay? Now, to be clear, I'm not a protected person in the case. So, this is a victory, but I suspect, because he's exhibited such poor judgment in the past, that Mr. Swigert might choose to continue to try to harass me. He should be very careful. Because if that harassment were construed to be causing mental anguish to my father, I think there's a possibility that a judge in Florida might legitimately find it to be a violation of this order. Really, the smartest thing for him to do, which he should have done 9 years ago, is to fuck off and go away and never contact me again. Don't have anything to do with me. And by the way, they're very hip to this notion of, sham litigation being used to intimidate and threaten and harass people. Mr. Swigert made several filings in this case prior to the hearing. He was served on November 26th. That's why I said this was the best Thanksgiving ever. I came down here to spend time with family, to make a nice Thanksgiving, see my parents. They're very old. I'm old, so they're very old. And this guy, think of how sick that is. It's one thing to shitpost about somebody on Twitter. You have an argument, you're back and forth a little bit. This guy has dedicated his life for 9 years to learning about my father's naval history, contacting people, finding his medical license, contacting the Florida Board of Health. The judge hated all of that. I guess David thinks it's cute and funny and that he's clever or something. The judge did not agree. In my opinion, based on the 10-year restraining order, the judge didn't exactly tell me. I'm just, making a guess based on these public filings and what happened in court. And you know, when he was served on November 26th, he could have come into court and defended himself. I did that with Nina. And see, I also didn't do anything to try to hide this from Mr. Swigert. I served him properly at his place of residence. I wonder if he realized that I knew where that was for years. But I didn't wait until I knew he was out of town to try to create a circumstance where he wouldn't be there. This moron wrote to the court saying, yeah, I received the document, but I can't make it. Couldn't make it. You could have booked a plane. The court doesn't care, by the way, if it's going to be an expensive plane ticket. That's your problem. Don't go allegedly stalking and harassing people. See, we got all kinds of different hazards wherever the walk and talk might be happening. I think the beach might be over there. Here, beach hotels. Doesn't it tell us where the beach is? Welcome to Delray Beach. Where is it? Maybe it's right in front of us. We'll keep walking. That looks like a beach hotel over there, doesn't it? Yeah, but the court doesn't care that you're going to get an expensive plane ticket. You know? Don't go stalking people, allegedly, if you don't want to pay for the plane tickets to appear in court. But so he had a motion to remove the case to federal court, I guess because he's in California. I'm trying to remember if I even read that. Another thing he loves to do is just paper things up. See, this guy is a bully. He's a litigation bully. I've been forced to have to study what he's done over the last 9 years, not because I'm obsessed with him in the way that he appears to be with me, but because I'm trying to get him away from me. Get away. Leave me alone. Go away. And see, I've come to believe, again, Judge D'Amico didn't address any of this. I've come to believe that this guy is somehow motivated by the likes of Ben Wittes, Valerie Caproni, you know, the lawfarati, the people that are doing lawfare. And I think the reason is because I've identified these lawfare practitioners and articulated what it is that they're doing, maybe in a way that nobody has before. I don't know. Why else would he do this? But now he's on very thin ice. Because even just emailing me anything, it could be very upsetting to my father, you know? And if he does that within the next 10 years and upsets my father might have to file more things with the court. I don't know what will happen. I'm just saying I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to have to come back here unless it's to go to the beach. It's a nice town, don't get me wrong. I don't know, have people been here before? Oh, poor connection. Well, you know, we're testing it out. Testing the system. Yeah, okay, probably when you go to the beach, there's no signal, so maybe we should not go to the beach. Let's head back towards the courthouse. Does that look like the beach? Maybe. Let me think what else we've got going on. Well, there's a lot of other topics to cover, but I've been very preoccupied with this for the past several, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. Basically since Thanksgiving. I forget what the exact triggering event was. I think Swigert sent my father an email. I don't like to see my father upset. I'm here looking after his health, you know, cooking for him and my mom, making sure they need errands run and stuff like that. It's nice to take a little time off around the holidays. See, the other thing that was interesting is, yeah, there we go. Okay. So the other thing that was interesting is I noticed that there was like a huge drop-off in engagement on X and YouTube, like amazingly so. I mean, I'm not trying to focus on topics that are just sensational to get lots and lots of views. Obviously, I want people to view the show, but I'm interested in topics that I'm interested in, and I hope that people will find interesting. I'm interested in topics that I find important. It's a nice Jaguar. And I think lawfare is a very important topic. Charlie Kirk is important as well, but I don't want to just talk about that every day. I see a lot of accounts that are just staying on Charlie Kirk, I guess because, you know, they think it's what people want to hear. And maybe it is. And again, I'm not saying I'm avoiding talking about Charlie Kirk, but I didn't really have any new information about that. You know, we were talking about Candace Owens, charities and stuff like that, then people got upset. I don't know, maybe people are unsubscribing because I pointed out that Candace Owens appears to have been very dishonest with people when it comes to that Lexit and saying that she sold it. There's no way that happened. You cannot sell a 501c3 nonprofit. And I don't know, she's supposed to be this fantastic investigator. She's making a lot of mistakes on some pretty important details about her own stuff. So I don't know, does that mean she's making mistakes about other things? I don't know. I also found it weird, and look, I'm not trying to be anti-Candace. I just get very suspicious when people run in certain groups. Like, it was weird to me that she would promote George Webb, but never said anything about the stuff that I found and that we found in Adam Bartholomew's video, initially talking about the U.S. Army ISR jet. Now, obviously, the Egyptian jets have become a big focus for Candace. And a lot of people have pointed out, John Cullen was posting about the Egyptian jets on October 13th, and then that was the last thing he posted. Well, that's not quite true. He posted after that. Well, he didn't post, he sent me a text. I have those texts. And then a lot of people, some of the same people I'm talking about, who run in these circles with Candace and seem to be, you know, doing a lot of sensational stuff. There's that guy Baron Coleman who's finding the Google Trends. I mean, look, I don't know what that is. I don't know that much about Google Trends. It seems like something somebody could be an expert in, but it's just a little bit super convenient because it's happened a lot now, not just with Charlie Kirk. I feel like there have been a lot of things where something happens and everyone's like, oh yeah, that shooting of the National Guard. They were like, oh, Google Trends the day before. So really, I mean, is every deep state clandestine thing, they're just using Google? And they don't cover that at all? Are they that lame-brained with the operational security that there's no secure way to search for that? Maybe use DuckDuckGo? It just seems weird to me. It seems weird to me. And I'm not saying, oh, that means it's wrong. I can't prove that it's wrong. I'm just asking, is it possible that someone is able to manufacture? It feels very manufactured to me. It's too perfect. It fits like a puzzle piece almost. And I question it because it seems to be all coming from the same people. And that guy, Baron Coleman or whatever his name is, he sort of came out of nowhere. It's a little bit like Blake Bednarz, who is closely associated with the respondent in the case where Judge D'Amico adjudicated that my father was a victim of stalking. Blake Bednarz, it would seem, interacts with that guy, wittingly or unwittingly, on Twitter, sharing certain similar information, almost like it's coordinated, you see? So when I see all these people who don't really exhibit a normal, natural, kind of organic curiosity, like there have been times in the past on other subjects where people have contacted me and said, hey, you know, I know we don't like each other or we've had beef in the past or whatever, but you have information about this or that. You said something about this or that, like in the case of Andrew Weissman and in the case of Norm Eisen. There are certain people who contacted me with questions, and I don't need to discuss who those people were, but my point is we weren't necessarily friends, we weren't necessarily aligned, but they said, hey, that's legitimately good information, good work, whatever it is. Want to know more about that? Let's set aside the beef and let's see if we can put our heads together on this. That's what I did with Gary Melton. I contacted him and I said, hey, why don't we set aside our personal beef and let's have a debate, a conversation, a meeting of the minds on this Charlie Kirk thing. He immediately started publicly embarrassing and insulting me. Who would do that? How is that a demonstration of good faith conduct as far as wanting to have a legitimate conversation? That seems more like social engineering. Maybe he's just a total idiot and doesn't realize that's a way to alienate a person. But my point is, there's a group of people and they share messages. Blake Bednarz, let me get back to him, because he I've seen interactions on Twitter between him and this same guy who's just received a ruling from Judge D'Amico. So it was weird to me, you know, people are saying, oh, Cullen, where's Cullen? Jason, you owe us, and by us I mean all these accounts that are not even names that I recognize, not even real names. There are other people who have been watching the show for a long time, who have contacted me with questions, and they get it. They understand that life is complicated, relationships with other people are complicated. This person who goes by John Cullen, complicated. He's done a lot of things that I don't like. And see, it's just very suspicious. You know, he brought me the information about the U.S. Army ISR jet. And then now it's quickly morphed into nobody's talking about that, and everything is talking about these Egyptian jets and Candace Owens claiming she's going to be assassinated by France and Israel or whatever she's claiming. So it's just strange to me, because that reminds me of George Webb, you know? Remember, you might say, oh, well, if these people are talking about these jets, how could they be covering it up? You might say that about George and Imran Awan. Do people remember that? Have you been watching long enough to know the legacy of Imran Awan, how that all went down? I never knew about Imran Awan until George mentioned him. So from that standpoint, you might say, how could George be covering up anything about Imran Awan if he brought everybody's attention to it? Well, it's a technique, I think. And look, I don't know it. It's like this. I've said this many times before. When you're born and you're a little tiny baby, they don't take you and stick you into English class and teach you grammar. You learn to speak English. I mean, by the time you're 5 and haven't even been to school yet, most people can speak and form sentences. And if you've grown up around people who are intelligent and use proper grammar, you might even have fairly good grammar at the age of 5, but it's different than going to university and getting a bachelor's degree in English literature or writing or something like that. So, you know, you learn by recognizing patterns. And so I can't tell you exactly how this technique I'm describing works, but what I've observed is there's a technique where they get right up to the most damaging story, whether it's Imran Awan, the U.S. Army jet, the Egyptian military jets, whatever it is, they get right up to that story and then they control it, right? Because a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't know, I can't get into this Egyptian jet story because Candace Owens is all over it and she has a huge podcast and nobody's going to listen to me. Or, you know, we've got the Glam Ham Radio. She was talking about the Egyptian jets. We had her on. She seems nice. By the way, Mr. Adjudicated started hassling her too. That's interesting. Why? I mean, again, I think he does that to make it undesirable for somebody like that to return to the show. Partially to ruin my show and ruin my ability to make a business out of this, reduce the number of people watching so that I can't tell them to go to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and sponsor the show, or to go to subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You know, obviously he wants to do that. But it's interesting that he doesn't do it to everyone who comes on the show, and he shouldn't do it to anyone who comes on the show. But he's doing it selectively, so what does that mean? I don't really know, but you know, he took an immediate and acute interest in Glam Ham Radio. I don't know why, but she was talking about the Egyptian jets. She had a lot of good evidence about it. And like I was saying, it seems to be a technique where they want to get right up to the most sensitive story and control it. I think it's to, you know, be a limited hangout, run the ball towards the end zone, and then take it out of bounds. So let's go back to Cullen, the pseudonymous individual who goes by Cullen.
Combination. I'm sure they're allowed.
He brought me the jet story, and not only that, it was created by Blake Bednarz. Blake is not that smart, in my opinion. He waited like a week or more to start complaining that Cullen had stolen his story. He said Cullen and Jason stole the story. People who were watching then will remember, Cullen said, oh, this guy is a hero. He did a great video. We say right in there, Cullen says he doesn't know who did the video, somebody sent it to him. This is a perfect way to launder that kind of information into the clear, by the way. I didn't know where he got it from, but he didn't bother to look and check. Look, we have Let's Play Pinball Retro Arcade. That's interesting. Actually, you know what? I think I've been there. It's an interesting place. But Cullen said, oh, you know, most normal people, because Blake had like 2,000, 5,000, I forget what the number is, very low number of followers when this whole Charlie Kirk incident happened, and he's rocketed up to like 30 or 40,000. And again, people can easily look at me making a comment like that and say, oh, Jason is jealous. No, that's not it at all. I'm just talking about the social engineering manipulation of this information environment, where if there are people like me who are working towards the truth, and that's unfavorable to some people, are they amplifying certain individuals like Blake? And are they using other individuals like Mr. Adjudicated or even Mr. Cullen, the symbol formerly known as Cullen? Is that it? Has the pseudonymous individual known as John Cullen been nothing more than a contract intelligence operative the entire time that I've known him? And is it just a matter of, on this Charlie Kirk thing, I became the contract? And is it a matter of when I realized that, he disappeared? Because a lot of people are like, oh, Jason, you have to call him, you have to call the police and do all, people, I don't do things because people who I don't know tell me I have to do it. I do things that I find important, like getting lunatics away from my father and serving justice while I'm at it. That was important. That was taking a lot of my time. Had to do that. So now it's going to be on to other things. Listen, I really hope that Mr. David George Swigert, who is the respondent in this case where my father, the petitioner, it was adjudicated by Judge D'Amico that he was a victim of stalking. What does it say? Let's look at that again. This is a final judgment of injunction for protection against stalking violence. Yeah, that's a 10-year injunction. So that's why we have the Injunction Junction. That's a little educational video, a little cartoon song. By the way, even indirectly violating that thing could subject the violator to strict penalties, including jail. Got to be very careful, like the song says. So, that's basically today's Counterlawfare lesson and our little tour of Delray Beach. It's a nice town. One maniac the entire walk. And I don't know why he's hanging out at the courthouse, but at least they have cops over there. So they could probably, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, look, I guess like anything, this thing could be subject to appeal. You know, everybody has their rights. Exercise your rights in court. I'm all for that. Not going to deny anybody their right to exercise their rights in court. That's what Nina tried to do to me. So she's another one. Like I said, there's a lot of counter-lawfare work going on. Nina and others and other things. Thank you for your attention to this matter and all that kind of stuff. Now, where is the courthouse? I got to find my car and basically get out of here. But that's what I wanted to share with everybody. Important counter-lawfare work going on. Thank you to the County of Palm Beach. And oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say. See, the response in the courtroom and the resulting judgment from the Honorable Paul D'Amico, it was very interesting for me to see. Because like I say all the time, I'm not an attorney and I can't give people legal advice. Nothing I say is legal advice, but I don't have a lot of, you know, frame of reference, right? Most of my practice, as Judge Locke called it in the Eastern District of Virginia, most of my practice has been in district court, federal court. And the thing is, if I'm right, and that George and his brother and other people are working for or in service of or contract to the FBI and are protected by them in federal court, that would explain why those judges haven't taken any, what I would consider appropriate action against them. You can't get away from jackasses on the bicycle on the sidewalk, can you? But that would explain why federal judges haven't taken any action. And it's become so obvious, you know? It's got to be addressed, but here we have another judge. I mean, essentially the same. If this guy got appointed by some president to be a district court judge for Florida, he'd be the same judge. So when you see a reasonable and responsible practitioner respond to the panoply of violations, the oeuvre of activity from Mr. Swigert over 9 years, and then you immediately get this kind of ruling, I think it tells you something about the egregious nature of some of these actions and how a legitimate judge would act. Also keep in mind, this ruling is going to, I think, not help in all of this vexatious litigation that's been going on. Not help Mr. Swigert, that is, in all of his cases where he's been trying to paint me as some kind of a problem and him as this normal person who's just exercising his rights pro se. That's not it at all, okay? So I want to once again thank the County of Palm Beach, the Honorable Paul D'Amico, and the service of justice. I'm so pleased with the outcome in this case. It's been a long time coming. And thanks to everybody who sponsors the show. If you like this kind of counter-lawfare work, don't forget to become a sponsor. It's very important. On subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. You can send a one-time sponsorship payment to paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth. Gasoline driving here, very expensive. Somebody sent a $5 payment by PayPal and said, here's the monthly subscription. I got to figure out who that was. That was a mistake. People can also sponsor by following me on X at JG_CSTT. You can subscribe there. You're going to get access to the sponsor exclusive content there as well. But that's it for now from Palm Beach. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.